time is now.
NUFC Early Night News with Gary DeJordy Yum Yum, Andrew Boki, and Derek the Mighty Wind. Weekdays from 7:30 p.m. UK, 1:30 p.m. USA. NUFC Talk.
Hey.
He's going to come on and hopefully and he gives us a little bit of an idea of what a brand new training ground will do to influence performance. So it's going to be an interesting look at that. But I suppose we better get in with the housework before we get on to the show. So again, here we go. Welcome to all watching across all platforms. Thanks to all the mods working tirelessly in the background. Don't forget, people out there in viewerland, smash that like button for us if you like the channel. Even if you don't, it certainly helps us get further as a channel. Subscribe, it's totally free. Hit that bell for future content. Always live, never edited, and you will get that 30-minute warning. If you want to support us, you can become a member to $4.99 fee per month if you can afford to do so. It certainly will help us get you some content. Like I say, we have got lots to come forward, and we're still developing the channel. So like I say, that will get you all access. If you've got a question for anyone on the panel, then throw a Q in front of it, but it isn't need to be mentioned. So if you do want to guarantee it, then throw us NUFC Talk Super Chat using the $sign. Follow the instructions, and that will guarantee that message read out. Anybody that does become a member during the show, or any of our lovely members out there that gift them, will also be thanked. Are we all well?
Well as can be expected under the circumstances.
Well, there you go. I am just going to clear my voice before I introduce tonight's show. Are you ready for this? I'm getting ready for the match. I'm getting ready for the match of the day. Welcome to NUFC Talk, where Newcastle news comes with context and occasional raised eyebrow. Just going on what Tina was doing to me yesterday. Sorry, the day before. Newcastle's Carabao Cup run may have nearly ended as we reach half-time against Manchester City, who once again reminded everyone that having two first teams is technically allowed. The lads competed, but City's depth and accountants told us. For a bit of perspective, the last time Newcastle beat Manchester City by 2 clear goals at the Etihad was back in 2014 in the League Cup. Rolando Aarons and Musa Sissoko on the score sheet that night. A very different era to one we're facing today. So off the pitch, after selling out to the Retro 95-96 tops, within the hour and of the release, the club are planning big with a 200 million training facility on the way. Less porta cabins, more performance labs, and long-term vision is clear. So we're going to have a look into that and what it brings forward. But while the future is being built, questions remain over the academy. Plenty of talent, but not enough first-team pathways. Very few breakthroughs moment to shout about. So we are literally going to have a bit of a look at where we are, what we should be, and where we could be. So we're going to move into that tonight. Like I say, there is no late show for anybody that's waiting for the mighty Chris to appear. He's doing other things. He's getting prepared for the travel across to the northeast. So we are going to run.
Picking the babysitters up.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to run until we finish. So you can stay with us if you want. It will certainly do me the world of good. So in the boardroom, 4 new appointments are being cleared to strengthen the football operations and strategy. Foundations first, headlines later type of situation. So they are whacking all the right, the right people in the right places. We have got some news on that, but like I say, it's very vague. And yes, the January transfer window season is here. Expectations on smart deals, hopefully not chaos as was in the summer, because PSR or CSR still applies, even if sometimes feels it doesn't apply elsewhere. So let's bring it in the panel. Gentlemen and lady, I know, like I say, Tina, you've got to disappear in at 9:30. But like I say, whenever you need to go, sweetheart, just wave and exit the building type of situation. But thank you for being here tonight. We'll go. Oh, there's the cat.
She just stood on the cat. She stood on
Yeah,
the
meow.
pussy.
Oh, there's the terminology. Was it watershed time already? Let's bring in yesterday. Lots to talk about, I suppose. Highs and probably quite a few lows. And me and Michael talking to Chris post commentary yesterday. I listened to Boki and Chris after the show doing the talk match analysis, and I thought there was some good performances out of a few. I just felt as though we found one of those matches, and which was frustrating for me, where the front three, the ones that you're reliant on so much, and again, my favourite saying, we keep saying it. It's only going to be a matter of time before somebody knocks on your door. If you don't score when you're on top, then it becomes very difficult when changes come on board. And I must admit, we looked totally off it once we'd started to make those changes. I must admit, defensively, we looked all over the place from when Harvey Barnes come on. Certainly didn't give himself any glory for me on that first goal. Miley obviously dropping into the more of the edge of the box with him being the second defender. Barnes just opens the door to run down the line. And then, we all know what happens after that with a cross, then a little poke at the back of stick. So for me, that was a bit of a loss. And like I say, when Trippier come on, mate, I don't even know whether he was on the field. But the one thing that really annoyed me, and I think the one that's got everybody's boat up, and Eddie was absolutely spot on in the post-match conference. They scored when we were down to 10 men. Jacob Ramsey was off the field getting treatment for a head collision that he saw. I mean, it was a strange one because he got up, he walked half a dozen yards, and I thought everything was okay. And the next, the cameras pan over to Jacob Murphy, who's poleaxed on the ground. So, bit unlucky, I suppose, on that. But you can't miss chances like we did before they got their first goal and come away thinking, how different it could have been. I'm going to start with you then, Mike. Like I say, you were on the show from your phone last night while you were outside Bally's. And it's really weird, when you're on your phone because I can only see half your face. It's like you're playing peekaboo, peekaboo. I'm over here, So what's your thoughts then, matey, after you've had your 24 hours thinking cap on? Is there anything that changes your your look of the game? Is there anything that you've seen differently now you've had a chance to think about it?
No, I said there, couldn't finish my dinner. That's the bottom line. We had, statistically, we had 4 big chances to their 2. Scored none. XG was almost identical. They had 1.66. We had 1. I don't know how their XG is bigger than ours when we had more big chances. And the chances we had were good chances. How 6'7" kind of put his head on that ball.
If he was 6'8", that would have been a goal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think that was his fault. I just think it was just one of them things. The shape of the ball, moving away from him. 6'7", 6'8". Like that. If that ball was shaped the other way, then I would question it. But when it's shaping towards the actual goal itself, going wide, you're always on the stretch. Yeah, well, I am, but I always think you're always on the stretch with those.
But the other thing is the timing of these chances. Like if Wissa takes his first one in 5 minutes, the place was already bouncing. That goal goes in, it goes up another level. And all the tired legs that we saw later on disappear if we are winning the game, and it's ifs and buts, it's small margins, and yesterday were on the receiving end, and we've got in my mind, a massive break when their disallowed goal was disallowed, because if that had been us scoring having it disallowed, I would have been absolutely furious. So Holland needs to get his toenails.
Yeah, but that was a strange one for us. I mean, 6 minutes. Looking at that, I mean, you could understand why Pep was quite, I suppose, annoyed at what he'd seen there. I mean,
rightly so for me.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was even when we were saying, I mean, it was really strange because we had thought it was the 2-player offside with the, including your keeper. So, is there 2 defending players behind the ball when the ball was crossed? Well, obviously there wasn't. But then Connor jumps on board and says, according to whoever the pundits were, they were talking about it was interference from Haaland onto Chow, I think it was, that then interfered with Pope. And I'm like, why did they put the lines on the screen then if that was the case? And then obviously the referee going to check on the screen as well. It was, how many people does it need to check? You could see actually on the field of play. Why did it take 6 minutes to work that out? I thought it was an absolute disgrace, if I'm honest.
No, but yet again, we all get excited because as 9 minutes goes up and we concede.
Yeah.
I think as well with VAR, they need to make a rule as well. If it gets over a minute, if they're looking at something and they're looking at minuscule details, just give it up and give the bloody goal and get on with the match. So standing around for 6 minutes is absolutely ridiculous.
I disagree. My philosophy there is I don't care how long it takes, as long as the decision in the end is right.
But it affects both teams when it affects the team that's got the goal because all momentum's lost out the game.
Yeah.
The fans go flat because what you meant to stand there and do while they're doing these checks. It's a freezing cold night and you basically there's nothing actually happening for you to watch. It's to me 6 minutes.
I tell you what, it gave 50,000 people an extra cheer when they'd done their deliberations.
Well, it did.
I'm with Bo.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with Boki. I think I'm more towards the fans as well on this. I just think not the fans, the players on this. You're up at the warmth of the game. We talk about the amount of injuries, and obviously we've got to obviously talk about Murphy as well because both me and Michael said during the commentary from the block challenge that seemed to twist his leg around, he never really got back running from that moment on. So it was like 15, 20 minutes. Well, that's what it seemed like. It probably wasn't, but it seemed like he was still trying to run this injury off for those 15, 20 minutes. Now, whether that twist of ankle stroke knee changed his gait in any way for him then to go on and have this hamstring issue, I don't know. I don't know what has been spoken. But if he's been rested for a couple of weeks now, because he's been, this muscle issue has been problematic. Now, again, the muscle problem, it didn't identify what muscle group it was. So was that not something that we overlooked as well?
Well, this goes back to the problem that we've talked about a million times, haven't we? Bringing players back too early. And again, you've just got to put your hands. Well, I think you've just got to put your hands in the knowledge of the medical staff.
Tony's saying that you're
continue.
Yeah, Tony's saying your mic's a little low, Win. I don't know whether you can turn it up a notch. It's just saying your audio level's a little bit off tonight. While Win's just doing that, what did you feel then, Tina? Because I know you're the positive one. You still believe that we can get this back. It's not over.
Turn it around.
Yeah, it's not over until it's over. So how did you feel last night?
Not far from it. Very far from over. I think, overall, we played well. We've got to bear in mind that we were playing against Manchester City, who are a team who've got 2 first teams to go out there and have got world-class players, and, were allowed to take advantage of this new rule where they could play Semenyo in a game rather than being cup-tied. Bringing back to the length of time that it took to make the decision, although I agree with Win that if it happened to us and we got a goal disallowed for it, I would have been furious. I do think it was the right decision and so worth waiting for, because even though, you can split hairs about the offside decision, but there was 100% a foul from Haaland on Chow in the build-up to that goal. So in reality, if that goal had stood, we'd have probably all been here saying, well, hold on, like there was a foul from Haaland, why are they allowed to do that? But if we do anything, if it's called and a goal gets disallowed. So I think it was the right decision, and I think considering what that same team had done at the weekend, the amount of time that they had played, for us to then, at no point did I think we were getting outclassed. Like, there was a difference in quality, which we know about, from where we are to where Manchester City are. But at no point did we ever look like we weren't in the game. Like, we missed chances. If any of those had went in, we'd be having a completely different conversation to the one that we're having today. Because, Wissa had a couple of chances he could have put away. Walter Mara, literally, if he was just a touch taller, would have had a fantastic Alan Shearer-esque diving header added to his tally for the season. And, we lost that goal. I think I heard the commentary mentioning it at one point of what's the thing to do here? Should we take advantage of this 9 minutes and try to push for that equaliser? Or should it be damage limitation? Which is the only thing that I would question from last night, was whether it was the right decision for us to try to chase that. But it's St James's Park. It's in front of a crowd that was going absolutely wild. Like, you've got to push for that. So I'm quite happy. And I do think, a lot of people are writing us off for the next match. But, the second leg, which I get, we're 2 goals down. We're going to the stadium of one of the top teams in the world. But if anybody can underdog that, it's Newcastle United. Just before somebody jumps in, can I just have a quick second to say hello to Emma, Iris, and Michelle, who are watching for the first time live tonight, who are people
Hello,
who
Emma,
are into
Iris,
football, who are now into football because I do this show. So I just wanted to put a quick shout out to my best friend and our family just while I got the chance there. Sorry.
No, lovely. It's like I'm on board. Like I say, thanks for watching. Yeah, listen, I am always, football's a funny old game, and things, can happen. The one person that came out of that ground happier than anybody else, I think, was Pep Guardiola, because he realises how difficult it is to come to St James's Park, especially under the lights. It's not the greatest. He's never had the greatest time at St James's Park, put it this way. And again, a lot of the gameplay, if you like, was in the middle of the park. There was very little in the first half regarding goal, shots at goal on target anyway, even though we had the best chance of the first half. And again, we talk about these small margins. But again, I was disappointed. I was disappointed with all three, if you like. Gordon, I think, only showed up once on Nunes, their makeshift right back. Looked like he'd got the beating. And when he got the card, Nunes, is where you're expecting to exploit that area with his pace to put the lad under pressure, because he knows then, in his times, the tackle is off the field of play. He just went out the game. There seemed to be very little seen of him. And again, you go on the other side and we talk about Jacob Murphy. Like I said, at the end of the day, Jacob Murphy did put one good ball into the box for Wissa's miss. Wissa misses a sitter. And then, apart from his defensive attributions from after that, and again, you've got to say, when he was supporting Miley at the back, we looked a lot better. We looked very sound and solid. And I was really surprised listening to about this afterwards because all emphasis seemed to be on Miley. And, even though Lewis Hall I thought was our player of the match yesterday, I don't know what you guys thought. He got beat a couple of times by Semenyo, and yet nobody speaks about it. But poor old Miley, who's had superb games, playing out of position, seems to get picked on all the time. And I do find that really strange. For me, I thought he had a solid game up against a real high quality winger who has beaten some quality fullbacks during his tenure at Man City. And up against Miley, I didn't think Miley had a bad game. I don't think it was a stellar performance. But again, you're up against some quality wingers there. And I think that was Man City's out all the time, wasn't it? There was highlighting Doku up against Miley, and I think that restricted our right channel a little bit with Murphy. I think he was more defence-minded. But when we broke for that first opportunity of Wissa, I thought that could have changed the game massively if that was, goal. I'm going to say on target would have been great.
It's all ifs and buts, isn't it?
It's small margins. But like I said, I think it all changed second half when the lads starting to hit the wall. Eddie obviously realising that, after a lengthy period against Bournemouth that nobody wanted, I think it was going to come back and bite him on the backside. And the changes were needed, I must admit. But we certainly didn't look the same attacking. I mean, I thought Wissa was awful. I thought it was the worst I've ever seen Wissa, I must admit. But again, when Voltemada come on, who I wanted on from the start, and I heard what Jamie said at the start of the afternoon show, the late show with you guys, saying did you not watch the match? And I said, this is the team that I would like to start. I'm not saying he was going to start, that I'd like to start because I think a little bit of height and a little bit of ball control from the forwards against, I thought, probably the weakest defence I've seen at Man City for some time. We had the opportunity to get something last night.
I mean, I'm saying opportunity missed. It wasn't an opportunity missed, it's Man City after all. But, we missed chances, that's the thing.
We said before the game that for us to get anything out of the game, two things had to happen. Man City didn't have to be at the best, and we did have to be at our best. Yeah. And I don't think we were at our best. I do think we had chances that were missed and we didn't fill with boots. So it could have been a different result. But sometimes you turn around and say you're beaten by the better team.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Man City are the better team, basically. At the minute, we're not on the same level as them. So
we're playing catch-up.
And I think going back to the Miley game. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go on.
No, I was just going to say in regards to what you mentioned about people talking about Miley getting outplayed, which was unfair considering, who Doku and Semenyo have outplayed this season. But I think it might come down to the fact that fans can target in on the fact that he's playing out of position and look at that as this was a bad decision because look at this. I think it's the wrong mindset to take, in my opinion, but I think that's why he's getting hammered a little bit more than Lewis Hall, who was, by the way, phenomenal again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just say, Miley hasn't been hammered from work.
I haven't heard anybody hammering Miley.
No. We picked up on the criticism that it wasn't his best game that he's had at right back. But he's had a lot of plaudits from everybody as well. So I mean,
rightly so.
Sometimes you have to take rightly so. But sometimes you have to take the criticism as well if something's not right.
Yeah, but my point is, Blokey. My point is the fact. No, he didn't have a bad game. My point is, buddy, is the fact that certain players get highlighted when other players playing in a similar position. And that's why I mentioned Lewis Hall. He got beat by Semenyo 2 or 3 times. Didn't mention him, but Miley gets a mention because he got beat by Doku. I can't see what the difference is. If you're gonna mention one, surely you've got to mention both.
I think it's what else they bring to the game as well, isn't it? It's not just down to the fact that they got beat. It's what else they bring to the game, and Hall brought a lot more to the game Maley did. And that's not calling Maley out, and that's not saying Maley's a bad player all of a sudden or something. But
no, but that could be
you can only talk about what you see.
Yeah, you're right. And like I said, I think the biggest thing for me was the attack was always going to be left-hand side. You know, we mentioned it when we were doing the Tuesday night show, and what you will get from Marley is potentially him coming into the 6, which is exactly what happened. He dropped into the 6, which then freed Bruno to go a little forward. So again, it's patterns of play. It's a style of play, if you like, and through phases. And a couple of times where Marley went down that right-hand side to try and support. Again, I didn't think he had a stellar game, but I certainly just, for me, I just do find it really. We get a little bit finger pointy at areas of play, and it's like as if it was the same with Dan Burn. You know, when Dan Burn was playing left back, everything was his fault. And then when we've had players in the same vein, again, we talk. I mentioned it during the commentary. Where's our left back against Bournemouth, which was Louis Saul? You know what I mean? Nobody mentions it. But if that was Dan Burn, he'd have been slated. And all I'm saying is sometimes, if you're going to wear the criticism hat, then you've got to criticise everybody for doing the same thing. You can't just pinpoint individuals because that's what they're doing. We don't know what the gaffers asked them to do in their role. So sometimes if you get caught out of position, you hold and say, you know, I didn't have any support. I'm out of position. I'll hold my hand up and say it's my fault. But I just didn't think anybody had a bad game. I just think they were up against that much quality. And again, you go back to saying, if you don't finish your chance, they're too good if you don't put them to bed while you're on top. And I think that was the big problem. And the more they got into the game and the more we tired, the changes certainly didn't make change effectively. In actual fact, for me, what they did was disengage us a little bit. We were caught very lackluster at times. And the lad I've put on the screen there, when he come on, if you look at his metrics now, he is the worst player in the Premier League for take-ons, and he's 33% of his passes goes astray. So, you know, £55 million for a lad who, actual fact, equals negativity in a Newcastle attacking formation. So that's what I'm saying. We've just got to, you know, for me, what we have to be careful of now is not panic buying and going down the avenue with areas of weakness in defence. We don't want to just bring players in for players' sake.
Be fair,
no knee-jerk reaction.
I don't think it's fair even just calling Elanga out. If we're talking about new signings, Ramsey's done bugger all so far.
You're right.
With San Baltimore who fell off a cliff. They're not performing at the minute. I would say out the 250 million that we've spent, the only bit that looks like a good buy at the moment now is Chow. The rest of them, you know, so some of them are getting look like a waste of money, basically.
Yeah. I just think that you're right. I think the difference with Ramsey, though, I think Ramsey is like Willock, isn't he? He can come and give you something in the middle, adds a rest, and you're going to get a performance. But like I say, for me, when you look at his metrics are negative. When you're the low, I mean, you know, you talk about even the likes of Wolves who are at the bottom of the league. His metrics on take-ons are worse than any of their players. And you're like, wow. Now, you know, Anthony Gordon's been slated this season, and rightfully so at times, because, like I say, you get one good thing and two bad things out of at the moment. And again, he didn't lose the ball very often last night, if I can remember rightly. But he didn't contribute in an attacking vein either. You know, there was a couple of good take-ons, but there was no end product from Anthony Gordon once he'd got into those positions. I mean, yes, he was taken down a couple of times, but for me, when you've got a defender on the back foot with a caution as early as he got them in, that is when you're crying out for the ball. That is when you're saying, I'm going to get this guy cornered into the corner. Hall, come and support me here, you know, and try and push them. And, you know, for me, there was areas I just think we went a little bit asleep. And it was, like I say, and again, it's about looking at the opposition and giving them too much respect for me. I didn't think our midfield really pushed onto them yesterday. I thought they defended very well yesterday, I must admit, in the first half as a unit. I thought everybody had to do and a role to do, but by doing so, limited ourselves going forward. And I think that separation, if you look at the amount of time you saw one of our midfielders in a passage of play from Newcastle, not a set piece, during an open play phase of the game, how many times did you see any of our midfielders close to Wissa?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, again, oh, sorry, no, go on, Mr. Bucky.
No, you go for it.
No, go.
All right. In regards to that, Gary, that's not just in this game, though. That's been the full season.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a repeat pattern that we don't get the midfielders close enough to the striker. We don't get the wingers close enough to the spell. The two wingers close enough to the striker either. That's the other problem. I mean, whoever's up there is fighting a losing battle because literally he's up there by himself trying to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, Wissa, to be fair, couldn't have kept hold of a balloon yesterday. Was just, everything that went into him, they were just winning back straight away. So,
fly paper wouldn't stick to him.
No, it was frustrating because, as I say, the opportunity was there for her, and we did have some of the chances that we could have, got the result. Just.
I'll tell you another thing.
Maybe it's just one of them games that it just wasn't our night, sort of thing. That sort of.
Yeah.
I know everybody will say, "Oh, you're whinging." But I think we pretty much all agree Lewis Hall was up there, man of the match.
Oh yeah.
And again in the first 5 minutes, he broke from between three attackers. And brought the ball away and was hacked down. It was a yellow card all day for me. No yellow card. He did the same thing again about 15 minutes later. No yellow card. And to me, Lewis Hall was getting no protection at all from that referee. And the first yellow card he gives, one of them's to Joe Linton for retaliating to the City player. It was nonsense. I'm not saying that's why we got beat. I'm not saying that at all. But
Joe Linton at times though is stupid in regards to the way he goes on.
Correct.
You see him and he's just mouth and you just think to yourself, look, I like the passion, but just calm yourself down a little bit. You can't go onto a pitch like a bull in a china shop all the time because we all know referees are picking up on it now. He just needs to rein it in a little. You don't want to say rein it in, but sort of cut it out a little bit, especially the talking.
Yeah, I mean, just Cuffy, and it's a fair point, I suppose. What Cuffy's saying here, look, football is a problem these days regarding instant gratification and success. To say players like obviously WM, Wissa, Ramsey, etc., is a waste of money after 20 games is madness. Now it's 28 games and a £55 million player. Go on.
Can I just pick up on that point, Gary? The reason we've spent so much money on these players is because the Premier League proven most of them. So, you pay. We all know you pay a premium for Premier League proven players. I understand, obviously, Voldemort doesn't drop into this category, but we paid a premium for Elanga, we paid a premium for Ramsey, and we paid a premium for Wissa. Yep, and has that premium paid off for? Definitely not so far.
Well, it would appear not yet.
But that's the whole point I'm making when there is that.
2 seconds, got a super chat in from Animal Lecter. Thank you, Paul. I think we should play our reserves in the second leg and also in the FA Cup. We haven't got the depth to be fighting on 4 fronts and get more injuries.
The point I was making...
We should go all out for Champions League and top 4.
Yeah.
Cheers, Paul.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, the point I was making there wasn't that these players can't come good, but the reason we've paid that premium is because we wanted them to go straight into the team and hit the ground running.
Yeah, well, again, we haven't seen a fully fit Wissa yet.
We've seen a fully fit Elanga, we've seen a fully fit Ramsey. I'm saying we've seen a fully fit Ramsey and we've seen a fully fit Alanga. And there's £100 million.
Have we seen a fully fit Ramsey? I don't know. Has he recovered from the injury he got when he first came?
£100 million on those two players, and the reason we've paid that much for them is because the Premier League proven.
I agree.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying. You do pay more for players who are from the Premier League because you expect them then to not need to take 2 months to get used to the Premier League. Like, I absolutely get the point that you're making there, Boki.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I mean, there is a fair point for what Cuff said on the chat. You know, you've got to be careful that you don't just put all the eggs in one basket. The problem for me is the fact that these are from the same league that they're playing in now, different system and all that. So I understand that could be a problem. But when you've got a professional footballer that is struggling to do anything with the round object that he's being paid a hell of a lot of money to do, there's something worrying about it. You know, there is something. You know, if he was running down the wing, you know, beating a player and throwing a ball into the box, and it's in a good position. The ball's being delivered into a good position, and our striker isn't there to pick it up. Then I wouldn't be looking at Alanga and saying, you know, there's a problem here. When you've got a player who doesn't seem to be able to control the ball, a player who can't pass the ball, a player who can't get past the player with the ball. You know, it's all pins point down to me as if one, you know, there's obviously a mental issue. Confidence thing is a big thing that's mentioned these days. But there's too many things going wrong to try and get it right. Now, there was somebody on, I know it was on your show last night, Boki and Chris, who was saying what Alanga needs now is a goal, you know, and maybe that will be a little match strike where everything starts to flow and go forward. And maybe that is also correct. And, you know, for me, I don't want to stand here and slate players. That is the last thing I want to do. But I just think at this present moment in time, with what we are having to face and the amount of games that we are having to, you know, to come thick and fast over the next few weeks, everybody has to be firing. And at the minute, we've only got one that really is producing any metrics.
Well, the one that's really worrying me is the fact that every question that Eddie's had about the transfer window, it's all been kind of understandably, but nevertheless, it's all been, we're waiting to see what's happening in terms of the injuries before we make our decision. And is that going to result in us being in exactly the same position? Now, we're already 2 weeks into the window. And we could have been signing players.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I thought we had today, but we're going to come to that in a moment because, like I say, there's been lots of rumours going around that a player's virtually, you know, all the nitty-gritty's been done, but then he's probably going to Juventus after all that, you know, and that's what I said, it's so difficult.
He has fancier change coming in with Paul Mitchell warned us about recruitment and nobody would listen. Everybody ignored his CV and backed the manager who they've made into a messiah.
Can I just quickly pick up? We'll pick up on Mitchell.
Yes,
I can do this, but just quickly with the Animals point about the obviously putting the youth team out in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. Do you think that if we go to Aston Villa and play a strong team and win that game, then against Man City, we do put a less experienced team out, because I think the chances of getting through on that are pretty low now, aren't they?
Better not be. I've just bought me ticket.
I know you did, mate. You're guilty with that question. I just felt that we sort of didn't really answer Animal's point, and I do think it's a fair point to make that if we get, because the FA Cup game, if I'm right, is the same week as the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, well, that kind of prompted my comment that I've just made, though.
Yeah.
Because you said we haven't got the squad. Let's get out and get what we need so that we have got the squad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But it's like I said, I think Eddie's too proud.
And then if you know they come back and let's assume Shea does fit quicker than we thought, and let's assume, Livramento comes back, but he's not going to. We know he's not. It's going to be 8 weeks at least. If that does all happen, so much the better. Just means we've got an even stronger squad for all four fronts.
I think part of it's they're trying to protect some of what they've got, like in the PSR rules, for when we do get to the summer. I think if we spend now, it's going to affect what we can do in the summer. And I don't know if they've got like quite big plans in the summer, but it has been mentioned a few times that we do have a few players who are reaching a certain age and who might have not looked as shiny this season. Players, such as Joe Linton, Trippier. I'm not going to mention Fabian Schär because I think we should definitely give him at least one more year for footballing reasons.
One more year.
One more year. But I mean, they might have a big plan for the summer, which would affect it if we then spent money. But I think Gary alluded to the player who I'm a little bit excited for, which is Oscar. And I'm not going to try to pronounce his surname because I'm going to completely mess it up. I think it's Minguiza.
Hey!
There we go. And I like the look of him, so I'm thinking because of the injuries that we've got, we might try to recruit him. But I'm not expecting like loads of players to come in the January, and I guess these rules are probably the reason for that.
Yeah, I mean, you are vying against big numbers. We are up against some big teams, if you like, bigger teams than we are at the moment. Maybe people will always question that, but by all accounts, what I've just heard is Minguiza is going to Juventus, and that was from Fabrizio Romano.
We can trick him. We'll play in the same colour. We'll just have. Oh yeah, come on! You play for Juventus. Here's your
change the badge.
You'll never even know. You'll not suspect a thing.
Just jumping back to fancy a change of super chat as well in regards to Paul Mitchell and him raising these concerns in the last window. Sorry, before he left.
Do you mean when he joined?
But
when he joined, not fit for purpose.
He obviously had concerns about the transfer policy, and everybody sat here and called him out. But correct?
Yeah, but you can only call him out from previous instances, and we've not done too bad in the window with the same people. Yeah, Steve Nixon I'm going to mention because he's the one really that I suppose was the pinnacle with all the boys that have come in. Your Brunos and the like, your Botmans. These players have all come in and nobody's batted an eyelid because they've all been play. It's only since this, and again, we go back to the Isaac situation. How much did that cause problems behind the scenes that none of us are aware of? That must have been an absolute ball ache to get through as a management team.
That hasn't caused problems with new players coming in, though. The new players
it might
coming in, how can Isaac go and cause problems with new players?
Because don't forget, just before the Opens, Mitchell buggered off.
I'm saying Mitchell left because obviously they wouldn't follow his transfer strategy. I'm sure that's the main reason behind it. In regards to that, the fancy change based point is, was he right with his transfer strategy? Have we went out, as I say, and wasted £215 million on players that aren't good enough?
Well,
and at the minute, I think Mitchell's right. I think Mitchell was right with his transfer policy, saying we'll just keep buying Premier League players.
Okay,
and that's kind of what Wilson said when he came in.
Waldemar wasn't Premier League, and he's Germany's current centre forward. You don't waste money buying that. Chow's been a hit. Everybody will agree with that, I think.
Yeah.
Wissa, we haven't seen fit yet, so we don't know about that. It would appear that Ramsey isn't as good as we all thought he was. And Alanga definitely hasn't been as good as we all thought he was. So
which is exactly the point.
Let's say that if we discount Ramsey and Alanga and say they are flops, that's 2 flops out of how many?
Ooh,
and what you then look at is everybody else. How many flops does everybody else? Not everybody who gets is a success.
When you're just papering over here, this transfer window at the minute, we're halfway through the season. We've spent a fortune on players that we thought were going to come straight into the squad and the team and be able to improve with. And which one of those can you seriously say has improved with? Apart from Chow?
Well, as I say, we haven't had Wissa.
No, answer the question. Which player has improved from last season? You've said we've brought a German striker, that's a German international striker. Has he improved from last season?
Well,
no.
is he looking as good as Isaac? No.
We've paid 50.
Is he better than Wilson?
Well, not.
Well,
I don't fit Wilson.
I put in the comment, Wissa and Walter Marder, between them, right now, have scored 10 goals. Exactly the same as Isaac and Wilson scored last season. 10 goals.
Yeah. I think at this present moment in time, I think it is, I suppose, like I say, you can throw a number of pieces of paper in a hat with answers on, and every answer you pull out will have some warrant to being correct. Because I think there was a number of issues with the summer transfer window. One being we didn't have a director of football. We didn't have a CEO. We didn't have a number of things. We had behind the scenes issues with players. So I think it was trying to navigate, a odd ship down a canal. And it took a lot of, I think, guts, if I'm honest with you, to actually go and bring these players in a ship that wasn't steady. And we all saw it. It wasn't as if it's, we're not Man City. We're not, Arsenal. Players or a team that have got gazillions of players to go and pick from, and a very good academy as well to go and churn from if you get a few injuries. We know the issues. We know what the problems were. I just don't think whatever Mitchell and Eddie Howe's problem was, and again, I have to go back to the CEO, who's their manager, and say that should have been, nullified at the very beginning, because for them being allowed to go down their different routes, one saying he never talks to him, the other one saying he speaks to him on a fortnightly basis. Somebody was lying somewhere. Do you know what I mean? There was far too many different stories coming out from the mouths of the two of them. So, like I said, for me, unfortunately, during the time where we heard that, he was of ill health, and like I say, I wish him all the best, Darren Eales. When you're running blind, you've just got to run in the direction you believe is the safest. And, the people we brought in, yes, they may not bear all fruits, but we've all said, and I'm saying all, and I say the royal all because I'm speaking for myself here, I do feel this is a stronger squad of players than we had previously. At this present moment in time, and I don't know whether this is just, again, being ill-guided by certain people at the club, we just seem to have had a lot of injuries in a focused area, which it seems to have tipped the balance somewhat against the team, because now we're having to shuffle players in different positions to try and make two ends meet, and it doesn't always work.
Gary, can I just pick up on that point in regards to the players that were brought in? Is Langer an upgrade on Miggy? Has he done more than Miggy did when he was here?
Well,
is Ramsey?
Yeah, but hold on, stop there, just for a second. Are you talking purple patch or away from the 6 years that he was here without the purple patch?
Just in general, is Langer proven to be an upgrade on Miggy?
You have got a point.
Is Ramsey proven to be
stop. Let me just throw that back at you. No, wait. Let me just throw something back at you then. Mm-hmm. If I was to put them two names on a piece of paper before you'd seen a Langer in a black and white shirt, would you have said he was an upgrade on Miggy?
I would have said he's a better player. But
well, there you go. That's the gamble, isn't it?
But that's what I'm talking about this season is have we Miggy? No. Have we upgraded on Longstaff? I don't think we particularly have. I think we're very much the same in the same. Have we upgraded on Wilson? I don't think Wissa's proven to be an upgrade on Wilson, to be perfectly honest. Have we upgraded on Isaac with Walter Marder? No. And have we upgraded with Chow? Yes, that's the one position where I would say we have upgraded. But with the rest of those transfers, and you're saying this is the strongest squad we've ever had. In regards to that, how can it be the strongest squad we've ever had when we had better players or at least as good players before?
Because I'm talking on paper. That's what I'm saying. I can't physically say to you until you see them in a black and white shirt.
To that, Gary.
Yeah, paper. You don't play on paper.
Yeah,
which is but that you've just answered the same question. You know, when these players come on, everybody said the depth of this squad now is stronger than it was before. And I'm not saying you've got players that are coming and making change. I
didn't say that.
That's what I said. I said the royal we when I said me. You know what I mean?
You will win.
If I can just, last season's Alanga, I think everybody would have taken that over General Mickey, not necessarily Purple Patch Mickey, but Alanga last season, which is what we were kind of buying him on the strength of, was a very, very good player. Wissa managed as many goals as Isaac with more in open play for a lesser strong side than us last season, so you can see why we thought he was an upgrade. And Ramsey looked like he was going to be an upgrade on Longstaff, so although it hasn't quite panned out yet, at the actual recruitment level, which is what we were talking about, it did look as if these were going to be quite fast improvements on what we had at the time. And as for like people saying, okay, so we brought in Walter Martin and Wissa to replace Isaac and Wilson. No. We lost Isak and Wilson, and we brought in Big Nick and Wissa to replace nobody. Like they were replacing where Sean Neve or Joe Linton was going to have to play for the season if we hadn't have bought strikers. Because up until then, we didn't make the choice of, okay, we'll get rid of Isak and we'll bring in Wallamada. We needed to then bring in a striker because we ended up with no strikers.
And even then, they weren't Eddie's first choice.
Oh, we had Ekatike.
You know, they were fourth and
should have came to us.
I mean, to be fair, you look at Volta's figures against the ones that we were in front of him. To be fair, there's only probably Ekatike that is hitting the markers at the minute. So maybe, you know, that 11th hour signing was a bit of a gamble, but it seems to have paved our way. Can you imagine the trouble we'd be in now if we hadn't have signed him? You know what I mean? We would have been all over the shop.
I know I'm by myself here and I'm going to get slated, so that
by yourself.
In regards to that, with those players that we've brought in, then the 4 players that I've mentioned that were good Premier League players, I could understand if you buy one player and it goes wrong. If you get 2 duds, then it's. But when we've brought 4 players in for the amount of money we've paid for them, and they haven't set the world on fire at all. If anything, we went backwards under them. Why does that happen? And is it a coaching issue? In which case, because we've bought players that were good. You said when we bought a German international striker, we've bought Alanga, who was brilliant for Nottingham Forest. I don't deny that. We've bought Ramsey, who looked like he was better than Longstaff. And we bought Wissa, who was an upgrade. Wissa will take out this one a little bit because he's been injured, but Wissa, who was an upgrade on Wilson. Why have all 4 of them failed so far at Newcastle?
Well, I would argue that all haven't failed.
So who hasn't failed out of them 4?
Wissa hasn't failed.
Well, he has. He hasn't set the world on fire. He was your silver bullet when he came. You sat there and said he's our silver bullet. What's he done so far?
Well, let's wait till he gets fully match fit and see.
What are we using as a metric for failed, by the way? Because last time I looked, we were recently in the league.
6th.
We're still in 3 cup competitions, and we're still pushing for Europe. What level of failure? I mean, if that's failure, I'm pretty sure I'd be happy as a manager of a Premier League team if I failed every season. If I was going to survive in 3 cup competitions, one of which being the Champions League, and finishing 6th in the Premier League.
If you guys can honestly sit here and say those 4 players have upgraded our team, then I'll happily resign and get off here, because I don't see how anybody could say they have upgraded our team. Who were bought to replace.
But the league position tells you.
About.
Yeah.
Sorry?
It depends which team you're talking about. They've upgraded.
Well, I'm saying the players that they've replaced.
Right. So Isaac, we couldn't do anything about.
I didn't say we couldn't do anything about it, but has Walter Martin improved on Isaac?
Well, was it likely that anybody was going to improve on Isa?
But I'm saying, has he? That was my question. No. Has Wissa improved? Well, he's managed a couple more games than will.
Yes,
But in terms of goals, you see, he scored one extra goal in them, but he's basically come in the same thing, and we've had the injuries with him. In regards to Elanga, who I think everybody would agree was an upgrade on Miggy. I don't see any improvement there. You know, I just don't see improvement on the
by the way, a second choice, because we would have had a Mbuemo if we had a proper transfer.
You keep saying that it's absolute rubbish in regards to we scouted Elanga for 2 or 3 years. It was known at the time that Elanga wanted to come here. We wanted Elanga here. Right. So it's rubbish to see. It's rubbish to see. Wasn't the first choice?
We scouted him last year, and he had the season he had last season. Why wouldn't we scout him again?
Yeah, I don't know how true it is. Now, again, I don't want to be shocked because I'm the messenger, but apparently Nick had a look at him when he was at Man U. And obviously Man U, there was no way Man U were going to put him through at the time to be a first teamer. So the chances of him going had to go. At the time, Steve Nixon wasn't in a position to obviously bring the player in. So he goes elsewhere. Obviously, we know, again, we look at the two metrics. We know Eddie Howe wanted him 2 years ago. He was on the list. And you know, Tina's absolutely right. If you just go on metrics, the numbers that he was performing at Nottingham Forest, and again, you know, it's been mentioned. I don't know how many times the same subject gets mentioned. It's not the same formation, style of play, or anything else. And the warning signs, for me, were there from day one. He needs movement to run into, space behind. Newcastle press, where is the space behind? So for me, and this is why I said there's a part of what you're saying, Boki, I agree with, because some of the players that have been brought in don't quite fit the jigsaw puzzle that you're trying to build. And you need a player who has the ability to beat a man. And, you know, somebody's put in there, you know, 65 million for Semenyo. He's only 10 million more than we paid for Elanga, who can beat a player, who can deliver goals, who, you know, put crosses into a box. At this present moment in time, I would like one of them from our 55 million pound player. That's what I'm saying. If he was fired on one of those areas, you could hold your hand up and say, you've got to get used to him. You've got to get used to him. But he's not. And that's what makes me worry of, is this taking Elanga out of his comfort where he had that space to run into at Nottingham? And now we are seeing his limitations as a footballer to take us forward in our style of play with the press. So there's a hell of a lot going on for Eddie Howe to try and pick the right way. And again, I think it was a bad mistake from Eddie Howe with Elanga. And that's why I said, not all of what you're saying, Boki, is wrong. I just think when you look at it on paper. No, I don't. It's like I said, you know, everybody shouted at me for Longstaff because I could see something in Longstaff. He's a workhorse, you know. He's not the perfect player, but he is a worker. He's one of those players that will always get in your face. We saw that when he played against us at Leeds. You know, he mocked Bruno out the game. So there is a player there. It's how you develop the player with the style of play. Ramsey, I think, is again, this is Eddie Howe's season, where I think he's just gone under so many ladders and crossed so many paths with the Black Cat. He's had another injury that's impacted his trajectory in the squad. So again, how far down the line does Ramsey have to be before you can say, right, you aren't that good? Now, Wissa, you know, how many games has Wissa had? 6, 5, 6, 7? How can we say he's no good?
4 games.
I'm not saying he's no good, but what I'm saying is...
Fancy a change is saying the answer is that the side hasn't improved with £250 million spent. We came 5th last season and won a cup. You can say we're not as good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, it's it is. I mean, fifth,
Cheers,
and we are. Yeah, thank you, mate. We are only sixth, and we're still fighting all fronts. So, like I said, yeah, we have won a cup, but we didn't have European competition. So there's a lot of other metrics that have to go into that.
Can I just ask Gary? Can I just ask Win and Gary a quick question here? I would never ask you this question, Christina. But does our transfer window last in the summer still blow your two frocks up?
No.
It never blew my frock up in the first place.
Well, it did because I've got a video. I've got a video of you saying our transfer window blew my flock. This squad now blows my frock up. This transfer window.
What I said was it's the best squad we've ever had, and I still stand by that.
So do you still stand by that?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's better than last year's squad.
It's better than
last year's squad. Better than the squad we had last year.
We'll have the same conversation at the end of the season, and then we'll see where we are.
Squad is better.
That's all. Go. Like I said, at the end of the day, you have to. You can shake your head, but you can't go. 20 games into a season and say, "Is it the better squad now?" Because
I wasn't disagreeing with you, particularly Gary. I was disagreeing with Win, saying this is the best squad we've ever had.
Because at the end of the day,
it's not even better than last season.
But will you still be saying that when we've won the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, Champions League, and finished third?
Anyway,
there's the question, Boki.
Well, I'm sick of going in these circles because that's what we do.
If we win all those, Christina, I will happily come on here with a pair of
careful
and sit all night and just clap all night. I'll make my hands safe.
Chat, get that clipped.
Yeah, I'm going to say. We'll remember that one. I thought he was going to say a lime green mankini then. I was going to say, we're definitely clipping that. Right now, let's go on to the training ground.
There wouldn't be much to clip, Gary.
Hey, listen, if I wore that, I'd have green going water over me, mate. Don't worry. The next part, I suppose, is the training ground. Lots of conversation has been spoken about this. Newcastle United are close on announcing a huge redevelopment project that would see the club move from a long-criticised Benton base to a brand new elite training complex at Walsington Hall. This is being described as seismic upgrade, the kind of facility that puts the club on par with Liverpool, Chelsea and Manchester City. Cost and commitment around about £200 million, and I believe involved with all of this rebuild, there will be a hotel. Seen as a long-term investment by PIF, signalling their intention to build a world-class football operation. It's 5 minutes from Darasol, where many of the players live. A huge lifestyle upgrade, as it's right on the doorstep to the Newcastle airport, ideal for those European and domestic travels far afield. A location previously owned by Sir John Hall, long discussed but never developed. Yeah, obviously the planned features, the project is being designed by Populous, the major global stadium architects, with Faulkner Brown also involved. Expected features include indoor, outdoor pitches, mini stadium, player accommodation, a full media suite, cinema room, spa-level recovery facilities, ultra-modern sports science and analytics spaces. This is the kind of setup that becomes a recruitment weapon, something players actively choose a club for. David Hopkinson's vision, Hopkinson has been very clear. Benton is a 7, if you're lucky, out of 10 at best, he said. Even with renovations, it can't reach a 10 because of the space limitations. Modern players expect training grounds to be full lifestyle hub, not just a place to train. He referenced North American sports as the model, places where players get childcare, car services, grooming, and more, all on site. Player frustration. The article notes that some first-team players have become frustrated with a lack of progress on a new facility. This project would directly address that. And again, this is what we were saying, because somebody was saying about how is this going to improve performances and also improve general play and attitude and results. And that's why I wanted to try and get Doc on there, the psychiatrist who obviously looks into the brain, look into the eyes, not around the eyes, and I'll give you an answer.
I don't believe that players move to a club because of training facilities.
it helps.
I think it also shows the project is still on. The project that we sold to the likes of Bruno and Isak and Trippier, who all came in when this takeover happened. I think this is going to help prove that hasn't stagnated. And I think having the top facilities, I think, will help us to attract, good players as well. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, that it doesn't make as big a difference as being an attractive club, but I think it will certainly help. I mean, it's definitely not damaged Manchester City's abilities. They have built their team and added world class. So I think this is a necessary step in the project.
I think it can definitely attract, young players, academy players, having a better academy. That goes without saying that. But as far as attracting first team players is concerned, whether coming to a club with a 7 out of 10 training facility or a 10 out of 10 training facility, immaterial in comparison to what their terms and conditions are going to be.
Can I just be the Mr. Negative again, which seems to be my role? Firstly, in regards to this, for our team at the minute, it's not going to make much of a difference to a lot of the team that we've got now, because by the time they get planning permission, is built and set up, most of those players aren't going to be playing for Newcastle anymore.
Awesome.
And the second point is, if you remember, after we had a loss a few weeks ago, Joe Linton came out and said we needed a training ground, to deflect from in my view, to deflect from the loss. Again, we've had a bad loss yesterday where people are disappointed and all that. This news is released this is leaked the next, I've put in quarter commas, leaked the next day, to have some positivity again around the club.
The dangling of the carrot.
Yeah, when don't get us wrong, I'm sure a new trade will happen at some point, but it's just convenient that whenever we have a loss, all of a sudden information's leaked about players want a new training ground. Then Newcastle United are doing this training ground now. You do have to just look at the timing of these releases.
Yeah, listen, I don't think you're wrong either. I think you're absolutely right, and I think again, it's not just the players it appeases, Boki. I think it appeases the fans as well. I think, like I say, the dangling of the carrot.
That's what I meant, Gary.
So long. Yeah,
that's what I meant, Gary. The fans, because as I say, the players, the likes of J7, even if this got go ahead tomorrow, he would never see these facilities in regards to being a first team player.
Might be the manager by then.
He might be.
Who's ever going to tell him he has to leave? He's just chilling them. Think Joe Linton smash.
But it took at least 2 to 3 years to get that facility set up.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think they're trying to get the go ahead and start in 26. But again, I don't think that's going to be as simple as it sounds. And again, depending on the type of facility they want to put up there, if they've got to clear trees and God knows what, if there's any bats flying around, what it's been like at Leeds Park, it could throw a lot of spin in the pipe work. So we'll see what happens. But again, what does it mean for Newcastle? It's a statement project, I suppose. It says Newcastle want to operate at the very top. And again, is this just another part of Hopkinson's jigsaw? He wants to be the elite when it comes to Newcastle in 2030. Well, surely this has to be at that level. He says Newcastle want to operate not just on the pitch, but also the infrastructure, recruitment, and player care. It's that that transform a club's identity for decades, according to him. So, it's a positive thing. Like I said, for me, I always say, mentally, it approaches. It approaches. It's like when you give somebody a little bit of money to come and redo your house. Somebody is going to come in, a professional that wallops the walls and does all. It makes it all look jolly, and you walk and you go, "Ooh, that's nice." For the first couple of weeks, the kids don't leave a cup. You know what I mean? On the side, they've got to put it in the sink. After 2 weeks, you don't give a toss. But I mean, you know what I mean? You're really proud of it, aren't you? Yeah, exactly. That's it. You can't eat in my new car. but after 2 weeks you can. But that's what I'm saying. It does give you an uplift. Psychologically, it does give you a boost. Players still have to perform on the grass to get the win. And I think, I think the one thing that this does, though, and again, it's like, being at the delicatessen, isn't it? Number 22, please, for the cryo, after you've just spent 120 minutes running around a football pitch. So if they do want the muscles to recover, I'm hoping to have more than one in your facility. We'll certainly aid that. Right, then let's move on. Like I say, I've just put that up there just to give you an idea of what they're focusing on, and like I say, a bit of work in the background, as well as trying to do the same on the field of play. Let's move on to some of the academy news then, because obviously there's been a lot of talk over this last few weeks about players now being loaned out, moving themselves into Ben Parkinson going to Falkirk, and by all accounts he went because they played Celtic this weekend. You've also got the opportunity to think about it, and the club, for me, have pushed the academy into speed. Let's it's like warp factor, trying to run before they can walk, because we all know, especially those of us that have supported the club for some time, realise how poor it has been. The turnover at the academy has been relentless. The search results confirm how quickly coaches have come and gone. Adam Lawrence lasted 4 months before leaving in January 26. Robbie Stockdale was there for barely a month in 25. Dermot O'Carroll only completed a single season. The pattern like that doesn't happen by accident. When you zoom out, there are 4 structural reasons why Newcastle under-21's role has become a revolving door since the takeover. Structural instability in the club has been rebuilding the academy from the ground up. New leadership, new philosophies, new recruitment models. Every time the hierarchy tweaks the structure, the under-21 coach is the first role to be reshaped or replaced. The Shields Gazette piece on Lawrence's exit hints at major departures behind the scenes, which suggests internal restructuring rather than performance issues. The under-21 job at Newcastle is unusually transitional, unlike some clubs where the under-21 coach is a long-term developer. Newcastle's setup has become a stepping stone job. Coaches like Adam Lawrence arrive from big academies, Manchester United to say just the one, and may have ambitions beyond the development squad, where Newcastle is at present. Others like Stockdale are experienced senior coaches who like to see the role as a shortstop before the first team job. It's not destination role, it's a launch pad. The club's ambition is outpacing its academy maturity. The first team is to try and compete with Europe's elite. The academy isn't even at championship level. The under-21 is sitting 23rd as I wrote this in Premier League 2, which is a long way from the standards the owners want. The mismatch creates pressure, churn, and constant reset cycles. When the first team is accelerating, but the academy is still catching up, the development staff often get caught up in the turbulence. Internal promotions and reshuffle. Newcastle frequently moves staff around in mid-season, which certainly doesn't help the flow of the team. Neil Winskill has been under-21's manager twice in a short caretaker spell. Ben Dawson, I believe, is back in place now, and he's bent between the job multiple times. This suggests the club is trying to find the right long-term structure, and that the under-21 coach is the most flexible piece on the board. So, real answer. It's not that Newcastle can't keep the under-21 manager. It's that the club is still figuring out what it wants the under-21 role to be. Until the academy structure stabilises, the position will keep turning over. And the way you break down football structures and strategy, you can probably see the bigger picture. The club is trying to modernise at Championship League speed, while the academy is still in its early chapters of the rebuild. Win, you've got some figures of where we are compared to the elite around us. I'll let her away.
This is the academy. This is revenue in the last 10 years. Revenue made by these clubs from sales of academy players. So you've got Chelsea there on 347 million, going through Tottenham, Man City, Aston Villa, Liverpool. This is the top 20 Premier League teams. Newcastle do not figure in the top 21. Team 21 has made 53 million from sales over the last 10 years. Newcastle have made less than 40 million over the last 10 years. And that just sums up where we are in the pecking order as far as the academy is concerned. And that's not something that's going to happen and change overnight or even, 5 years. It's going to take 10 years. This is after we've built the academy, by the way, before we ever see any of that coming to fruition. So right now, we're in the situation where we've more or less, if we want first team talent, we're going to have to buy it. Is where I'm at on it. Now, Borky will say always, yeah, Eddie doesn't give them a chance anyway. We'll never know how good they are. But honestly, do you think if there was any hope for any of them that he would have given them the opportunity?
So why
That's
do we keep
where
them?
I stand on it.
So why do we keep them?
Because, well, we've got to have some kids in the academy. We're trying to replace them with better kids. We're buying young'uns from all over the place to come in now, but it's not going to happen overnight.
If you get in the academy and you're standing there and you look at the development of this club, does that not put you off as well? Because you just think there's no chance for us. There's absolutely no chance I'm ever going to get into the first team squad, or even get a few minutes at the end of a game.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because that's where we are currently.
So that's down to the manager. In which case, we need the manager to start.
No, we need a manager to get results for the first team.
Yeah, but when you're winning, if when we're 4-1 up against Everton, why didn't he bring a younger on for a couple of minutes at the end of the game? You're not risking anything.
And are you saying that
he goes back to the academy then and goes, "Oh, it's the best thing ever! I made my debut for Newcastle United." And the rest of them think, "Oh, great! There is a progression route here."
Or the rest of them are like Borky and they say, "Big deal, you had 3 minutes."
Well, no. It breeds confidence with the academy. Yeah.
I agree.
It might not be good enough to make it as a professional Premier League footballer, but it's the influence it has on the academy by bringing those players on, and the story that kid will tell when he goes back to the team. Because the fans would, if he put a young player on, for a fact they would cheer like hell. So it's a win-win situation for everybody, but Eddie's just not got that mindset in him to do something like that.
He's focused on getting results.
But 4-1 up against Everton, what difference does it make?
Yeah,
he's got the results.
I agree with you, mate. I think I think it's different when the game is close and these boys haven't given you anything of any stature, and I think that is the problem. And again, you've only got to look at where the lads are. And again, what has happened, because we talk about keeping it a balance, keeping it settled. And I know you guys are going to come in with your pieces in a minute, but for me, when you're playing the wrong formation to your first team, it's not really setting up the structure for an easy pathway from academy through to first teamers. So, like I said, for me, there's been some disjointment somewhere. And are we looking at players or managers, coaches coming in and utilising that as a stepping stone? Well, would you not say it's a backward step to a degree from the Manchester United academy? So he must have been given some promise of where this academy is going to go for him to have moved, unless he didn't see his job, his tenure and his dinner voucher being taken away from Ineos going forward. So there was other rumours and results, but for me, the one thing I've always wanted to see at Newcastle Academy is an ex-player, somebody, a local lad that has got that hunger, that passion, that drive to see that development happen. You see it in all the other academies. West Ham have got ex-players and alike. For me, it's screaming out to have some localism.
Like Toon Army, for example.
Well,
maybe.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think you're far wrong there.
Steve Harper or Steve.
Well, Steve Harper's the academy manager, isn't he? I mean, like I say, he oversees everything. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's the academy manager, and obviously they've got to go for the badges while they get that.
Gary, should we let Christina jump in with her because she's going to be a week?
I don't know I don't think Wynn's finished. I know Christina's got to jump in.
No, I'm finished.
You finished, mate? Go on then, Christina, because I know you've got to go at 9:30.
I do have to go at 9:30. So my bit was looking at what like a long-term strategy for an under-20 or successful under-21 setup looks like. And I've been, if we look at that, some of the things that Gary's mentioned definitely come into that. For example, having coaching staff that's going to stay for 3 to 5 years rather than 3 to 5 months is a big thing. The formation and the philosophy meshing between the under-21s team and the first team. I mentioned it earlier in a few shows ago that the formation that they play at under-21 level isn't the same as what they play in the first team. So that ends up with a bit of a disconnect. So a few of the points of for a successful under-21 setup would be keeping the manager in for a bit more long term, keeping the same person working with the same players, which is going to create stability, and it's going to not be resetting them to learn another bunch of things when the new manager comes in, and have a clear development philosophy behind that, so that players know where they're going, so that there is a clear pathway to the first team. A consistent training methodology was another thing that would be important. There's no point training them in a way that isn't then going to work when they do progress on to the first team. You need to have them knowing where the goal is, working at becoming the player who is then going into somebody who could either become a first team regular for us or become valuable enough to where we can make the revenue that Wynn was talking about from those players. I think especially at the younger level, because you've got to remember we can recruit players from a very, very young age. So there needs to be a trust built with not only the players but also their support network, whether that's their family, their parents, their friends. I mean, these are young lads in and trying to transform into Premiership footballers. That's a massive thing to be taking on at the age of 16, 17, 18. And I think giving them, almost making it feel like they're welcomed on a family level can only help development of players, especially with the mentality, with the confidence, and with having that little bit of fire to fight, not only for your position, but for the badge, for the club, and want to go above and beyond. These have been the areas where Newcastle have kind of struggled when it comes to the consistency and having the same formation for them to build up into the first team for. So these are things that we do definitely need to work on as a club. As I was mentioning, the alignment with the first team is very, very important. Under 21 should probably play the same formation, have the same setup of whether we're going to be pressing for a game or sitting back more defensively, work on similar build-up patterns so that they know, as we've said with bringing players in from other Premier League teams, like Alanga, for example, he was on fire, but in a different formation, in a different team's philosophy. And then we've brought him in here, and he's looking very lacklustre to where now a lot of fans have kind of given up on him. So to make sure that there's not such a jolt for the under-21s, having them build up the same tactical awareness, the same formation, the same passing structure, the same pressing or not pressing, having that developed from a young age turns them into a ready-made player for the team that you want them to eventually play in. Now, obviously, what would eventually affect that would be if you keep changing the manager every few years. So that would potentially give another thumbs up in the Eddie in camp, just to mock you a little bit there. But yeah, a clear, same defensive principles, and I think all of the top clubs generally develop their youth talent this way, building to the future pretty much from the start. As I mentioned, that clear pathway to senior football needs to be there. You have mentioned, like Bulky mentioned, being able to go back to the other lads and be like, oh, hey, I've made my debut for Newcastle United. I was out there in front of 52,000 screaming fans. It's going to be massive, but to get them there and to have a successful landing from there, from under 21 to, from under 18 to under 21 to, maybe going on loans, pick the loans correctly, make sure that matches with what we're going to eventually want them to do. Don't just send them out willy-nilly to sit on the bench for some third league team. That's not going to really help their development at all. And then obviously just making sure that from under 21 to the reserves to the first team has a steady formation pattern or a steady strategy to make sure that the players aren't then going to come into a whole new thing and be absolutely shell-shocked and end up potentially ruining their confidence, like what's happened with Alanga. I think as well as that, you need to look at it on, for individual players, having a development plan for each player, not just throwing them in with a group of lads and saying, okay, we're going to train in case you one day get a chance. Show them a development path, a set of goals to then lead towards them getting into the first team. This can include things like regular training sessions with the first team. Let them get integrated in that. Let them play a couple of training matches where you get to see what one of the under 18s defenders looks like working alongside a Sven Botman or a Malik Chow. Give them a bit of time with that, and then that's going to also then integrate them. Eddie Howe was saying for Miley, he fitted so well in at centre back, and I think a lot of people worried about it. But Eddie Howe said he had actually trained him in that position on the training field, and I think that does then translate into success on the pitch itself. The loan strategy, I think that needs to be looked at as well. I think we're all aware of that. We've mentioned Shola Amiobi and his role in that, and make sure that. Because who was it that we sent away on loan who did absolutely nothing for the full loan? We've got what's his name, Sanusi, who's away on loan at the moment.
Sanusi didn't do anything, and then you've got Cordero, who's literally just
come back. As well, who was super excited. People turning up to the ground to see him. But moving on, because as I say, I need to get through all of this fires.
You need to get go.
No, but I'll finish my piece. I'll finish my piece for you.
No worries.
So find recruitment strategy with an elite 21 setup. Recruit with purpose. So bring in 16 to 18-year-olds with very high ceilings, 18 to 21-year-olds who have been released from other top academies. That's the type of level that we should be looking for. Bringing in smart overseas signings, for example Cordero, who we thought was going to be someone who we were going to develop. Bring in those players from overseas who automatically fit with our style at a young age or show some sort of potential to be able to play the way that rather than just bringing in players and then sending them out when they get disillusioned. That's not really going to be helping us or helping them to develop, because we've got to remember we're affecting these young lads' careers when they come to us to be developed as well. So I think having, a bit more stability at that level is also going to make us more attractive to the more high-end, ceilinged wonder kids that are out there, if you want to use a coined phrase. But above all, to get us there, we're going to need strong leadership, which is going to consist of long-term appointments at levels of such as academy director, the academy coaching staff. Let them work with a group of players you'll know from school. You work with one teacher, you start developing a bit of a relationship with them. You end up performing better for them than you would if you're changing the people who are around you every single year or every few years. It doesn't really help you develop. And except for that, 2 seconds, sorry, I'm just checking my notes. Yeah, so head coaching with a clear vision. And again, I think that there should be a very strong connection in some sort of conversation between Eddie Howe and the academy's management staff or coaching staff, to make sure that everything does in that type of philosophy to build towards becoming a first team starter. And therefore that obviously competitive but development focused environment needs to be there. So that's like, have them at a young age playing that high intensity football, having that tactical discipline, being ready on a physical level, because that's a big step up when people's bodies are developing at such a young age, and making sure that their mentality is right to know that winning does matter, but sticking to the first team philosophy when you're at academy level be a little bit more. And I don't know if you just want to take over that, because I've just talked for 10 minutes solid, which I apologise for being a bit of a monologue.
No.
But
no, that's all right. You've certainly done a bit of groundwork there, girl. I'll tell you now. I have started a couple. I'm going to get to some of your points in a minute, because while you were talking there was quite some.
You need to do something to fill the time.
No. I had to literally
Gina,
keep an eye on it.
I do, if that's okay. I'm really sorry.
No, that's fine, sweetheart. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you very much for having me on. Hopefully I'll be on tomorrow night, and I hope the three of you have a fantastic rest of the show.
Cheers.
Thank you, sweetheart. Have a lovely evening.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, it's crazy how far that can go. I mean, that's what I said. There's so much to look at when it comes to the academy and development. But yeah, I mean, Foxy's here saying, at a great club in Belgium with Westerlo, like Vuskovic from Spurs went there, and he didn't take his opportunity. And I do think there's a part of it that does become part of the players want and achieve as well. And again, I don't know what happened there, but it certainly didn't take off. He also goes on to say that Cadiz, where he's gone to now, is also a very good for him to develop. So fingers crossed he gets his opportunity there.
Comment in here from Cove saying, imagine you've got the choice between two companies, one with a brand new office with all the bells and whistles, and the other in a clapped out office block from the 70s. Which one are you choosing? The one that pays the biggest salary?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think there's probably a little bit on everything when it comes to money focus, isn't it? But I think when you're a kid, I mean, we've heard a whole. I mean, if you look at the young ones at the minute, Miley Hall and Tino, and I think somebody I had started in the comments. Dave said exactly the same thing, and I'm probably pinching their line to a degree. They are the team, or certainly the individuals that are carrying us forward at this present moment in time. And that's what I said. There is a lot of young players out that can do this. Yeah, I just think we've run before we can walk when it comes to the academy and the under-21s. And I think it needs stabilising. And for me, there has to be a face for the kids to respect. And I think at this present moment in time, I don't think, well, for me, there's been very few names that blow my frock up. And I think that is the other thing. I mean, the lads have put in the likes of Kits Boyer. Get Kits Boyer back.
Kicks Boyer.
And stuff. Yeah, and it makes me funny. When I was starring them, it was tickling me. I mean, Liquid Metal Man here is saying, Carsley in. We pay more money than the FA will do. So get him on board. I mean, I'm not sure whether Carsley will move towards us, but again, for me, I'd rather see a bit of a local man. Foxy saying, Kits Boyer, get him back. He'll terrify the youth. Lol. Kits Boyer actually has a coaching career. Not the worst option. Yeah, I totally agree. Shaola wouldn't fill you with confidence. Toon Assassin, I wonder if any of the players would want to take over the academy, like Big Dan or Trips. And again, good shouts. It's certainly somewhere
Trips,
where
I
you
think,
can,
would be
potentially. Foxy again. Titus Bramble and Boom Song. Oh God. Oh my days. That's excellent. And yeah, there you go. It was Liquid Metal Man that mentioned Miley Hall and Tino. And you're absolutely right, mate. Sorry for stealing your thunder. Boki, to finish it off, what have you got to go into regarding the under-21s? It's about structuring, I believe.
it's about the manager, isn't it? The type of guy we want to get in.
Yeah.
I feel I've let you down a bit, yeah, Gary, because I haven't done as much research as Tina.
You don't have to, mate. I didn't expect from Tina either.
Basically, all I wrote down was we need to get a good one.
That's perfect. That'll do for me.
I'm just kidding. Obviously,
less is more.
Yeah. Obviously, we want somebody who understands the club a little bit, and I think he'll understand the project that we're going to be going through, and potentially, if maybe it's not this season, but a few years down the line, we might have a new manager in place. So you want someone in there who's been looking at it as a football, is willing to come in and understand the football strategy that the director of football is going to put in place, and be willing to go around that. Not necessarily somebody who's going to, just come in and. I get the point of the manager, the structure having to be that we'll play similar football to the first team, but I don't think that the formation and things, it is the right thing as such for that manager to be forced into playing the same formation as the team. I think sometimes, if we mixed it up with the under 21s and let them play a different style at times, and just so that if and hopefully when this happens, players start coming through, they're not just used to playing in one position or sort of the one style of football. Whoever's manager will be getting players through who are used to playing different styles and understand the different styles of football. And I'm not saying mix things up every week, and don't mix things up for the sake of doing it, but do it a little bit. I know we've mentioned age. We maybe need to get somebody in who's of an age where they can, because they can relate with the players. I think getting somebody in who's a lot older than under 21s and maybe hasn't played for a while isn't the right profile of person. You maybe need somebody who's just retired. It would be a brilliant idea. Someone 35, maybe 40-ish, 45 at the oldest, just to sort of, be able to come in and, you can tell
relate.
Relate exactly. Because, I mean, if you put somebody in who's in the 50s and 60s, let's face it, with 21-year-olds, and I think what you've got to remember is as well, there is that massive, it's not like a normal workplace where there would be people in between of different ages. There is just a massive age gap. And I think we need somebody in who understands sort of the social media age and things like, so somebody who's went through that and can explain to players and deal with that side of it as well, because that's going to be a massive part of players' development moving forward, not just what they do on the pitch, but also being able to deal with what people like me do to them and give them rubbish for what they've done on the pitch, and sort of not take that personally or take it on board. We obviously need somebody who's in it for the long haul, who's willing to stay for, as you said, Gary, we've had managers come in who've just up and left after a few months, after a year. I know it's impossible to say that somebody will stay, but I think somebody who would stay for 5 to 10 years would be perfect. And then obviously they're going to become outdated, so you get somebody new in at that point. But you want somebody who's going to see through with the players that they've got. So obviously you're expecting them to be looking at the youth as well, because they want to see what's coming up to them. So the younger players, so they see them, and I think all the coaches should be involved in that. So the under 21 coach, you want watching every game with the younger players as well, so they can start thinking, this is who I want to play. Yeah, this is what I want to develop them into. And as a coaching team and a director of football, you want them all to get together. And I think that includes Eddie as well. I mean, I don't know, but does the under 21 coach sit on the bench?
I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him involved in anything in Newcastle first team, and that's another good one actually. And just going on to your point that you've just made there, Boki, about players coming and watching what's in front of them. A lot of the academy players have come into the first team situation, especially when there's seats available from the away end and the like. You will see some of the... And Miley made a really good video, actually, when he was doing a Sky Sports interview, and he was talking about his younger days and how he used to watch the football, go home and then try and think about how he would do a similar situation while at the academy. Try and replicate what he's seen on the in the first team. So maybe that is one of a good answers.
Yeah.
And I've just had a quick look just out of interest, because they're saying long-term appointments and all that. And looking at Chelsea's, who we've just seen are the most successful academy out there, they change their whole staff roughly every 3 years.
Yeah. But that's a complete change, though, isn't it?
Yeah, no, they're going at slightly different times. But there doesn't appear to be any great longevity there.
Do you know, I don't see it being a problem with the staff, with the coach and staff, but I think the continuity of manager is probably the most important thing. I think getting new coach and staff in at times, and as I've said to you guys many a times, in regards to that, if you start to stagnate, if you don't change things up. I mean, the other option is as well, if you get good coaching staff at all levels, swapping the coaching staff around as well.
Well, you would think the progress through the staff should be the same as the progress.
But no, what I'm saying is not that way. Not the staff sort of have all good. All the coaching staff should be good. So could you have interchangeable coaching staff between all the levels? So so the under 18 coaching staff, for example, maybe do a bit of work with 21s at times, and then so you know what I mean. So they're not just hearing the same voice, and you're getting fresh eyes on it that way as well.
Except does that not undermine then the continuity thing that you were saying was essential?
But I'm saying the manager should be the continuity. The coaching staff should be putting ideas and giving the manager feedback.
On the first team manager here or the academy manager?
No, academy manager. Well, I'm talking about all the managers at the different levels. So the academy manager and the manager of obviously each level. So have a little bit where the coaching staff. I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes the coaching staff move around. I don't know if that naturally happens at clubs, but to me it would make sense, because you might have one coach that doesn't see something in the player, but if a new coach goes in, they do see something in them. So just sometimes having fresh eyes.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's been a number of situations going on. Like I say, they were in that European competition that they're playing clubs, and they lost 5-0 yesterday against Benfica, which again, it's just, for me, when you look at the amount of players that are going out on loan, is it a known thing now? And again, guys in the chat, I want to answer this question. I've very rarely seen now, and I'm sure this has been put out there before, but again, my memory's crap. Do we now, as players return from a long-term injury, not use academy now to give them a run out a couple of times just to get them onto that match sharpness?
We've actually got Wazza in the chat here, and he's saying, when I was young, I couldn't give a Brad Pitt about the back room. It was the first team in the reserves that I went regular. It was simple and less brainache. they were because when it was basically the first team, the reserves, and the ends, you're dead right. When somebody was coming back from injury, they would have a couple of games in the reserves.
Yeah. Don't see it anymore, do you?
No. The only thing I would say to Wazza is a lot's changed since the 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my first ever game at St James's Park. So that's.
Sorry, Barkey, I stopped you in your tracks there, buddy. Have you come to it?
Oh no, mate. I was just about finished. To be honest, a lot of what I see is coming from a position where I don't really know a lot about the under 21s. If I'm perfectly honest, it's not something that I look into. So people will probably say it's a load of rubbish, and if they do, that's up to them. But it's just sort of.
But you do forget, until the situation that we see ourselves in now, how much of an advantage it is having a decent academy. Because as you saw with Elaine for Man City yesterday, Like I say, 10 days ago, he was out at Watford on his loan, season-long loan there. Again, just come straight back into the Man City back four. Doesn't look as though he's been ever out of it. Didn't look under any pressure. I might say that. We didn't really play to put him under any pressure. Exactly. But I mean, what I'm saying is it's having the faith in the ability of the academy to do that. And that, again, we question, and I have seen umpteen people in the chat, and again, I apologise to those that we haven't got to. Again, just saying Eddie Howe hasn't got the faith or hasn't got the knowledge or hasn't got the wits or whatever terminology they want to give. But has it failed at that level for the players that whoever's in charge has got, because there just hasn't been any stability there? There hasn't been the same voice. There hasn't been a person that they respect. To be. Somebody put Peter Beardsley in there. Now, I would have loved to have listened to Peter Beardsley. I must admit, I'd still love to listen to Peter Beardsley at the age of 58, I must admit. He was a great player. And again, a player, at my age, I would look up to and respect. I just think at this present moment in time, there's a void.
If he went to if he was to go to the academy, let's say,
nobody ever doubted him.
He's been there, but let's say he was. A lot of these kids, it's like us talking about Jackie Milburn.
Yeah. It's just a name.
Kids today, it's just a name from history.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I can't think of the player that was. He was at Arsenal. Young. It'll come to me. Again, he's taken on board completely new. Didn't know his career come to an end, and straight away you've got to think of, where do I want to see myself now? Again, we look at, and Boki was absolutely spot on. We talk about assistant managers and things like that, and spot on with Chelsea having this rotation, if you like, every 3 years. Again, if you look at the lifespan of any coach at the big clubs, if there's no silverware coming through the door, the coaches come and go thick and fast. But they're still very good at producing the goods at that academy to either sell on, and again, we've talked previously of it being a cash cow, but we've seen this season, more than any other season, seems to be a lot of players. I think it's Adam Harrison, Kieran Thompson. There's a number of players that are playing now that I don't think will ever be good enough to get into the first team. Now, I thought there was going to be a lot of promise for Heffernan, who we picked up from Milan. And I thought he was going to be the one who was going to really push us through, to that level and get minutes under his belt. Alex Murphy, I thought, had a chance. And like I said, when you're playing teams, the likes of Bull, listen, they'll put you on the test. I'm not saying it's going to be a gimme, but if you're going to see them, you are going to see them against a lesser team. And I'm not saying, in a lesser competition, because I don't want to say that, because that just means that we are like, the others. The FA Cup is a very much appreciated cup for me, unlike the top six. And again, you've only got to look at the Man City team that went to Exeter, you know what I mean? And the time that they put up, you'd expect a lot wide, but that's exactly what Pep thinks of the FA Cup. But for me, you go back to a lot of the big six assistants of now and what they've achieved going forward during their stepping stone. And that's what I said. Eddie Howe has had Mad Dog with him, I don't know how long, through all his Bournemouth career, right? Never changed anything. Still the same setup as it was before. If he had a new set of ears to work off, I think that would make him a sharper manager. Like I say, sometimes, as Boki's already said, it can become a little bit stagnant and stale when you're listening to the same old all the time with nothing changing. Could you ever see Mad Dog getting a Premier League job?
Not at the minute, you couldn't.
No, there you go.
Can I just ask a quick question? I was thinking about there. Obviously, for like younger people, is there a route to go through for your coaching from a young age? So like if you're 15, 16, can you start going through a route there to get your coaching badges? And would a club consider taking you on at that age, or is
From
it something
school?
that well, from school, but is it something that a job potentially that you could start from a young age and work your way up, or do you really have to have played the game to be a coach?
Well, that's the problem that I faced. I mean, Foxy's there saying he had Johnny Pembleton. I had Paul Power of Man City was mine, and Cowens from Aston Villa that put me through my badges. Now, this is what threw me, and this is why I walked away from football many moons ago. When I played at, like say, Midland Com. I went, again, there was a club that was falling down. I mean, literally, it was falling down round his ears, and that was at Walsall Wood. You were paying players to play at a good level, a tenner a match. That's how bad it was. So we were scouting every Sunday to go and find the youngest talent from the Park Fort teams that we could pull in, because you're never going to get big names coming to play for the tenner. They wouldn't even lace the boot. So we weren't funded or anything like that. So I went to Warsaw for 3 years to get my badges, and because I was never a professional footballer, it was Mason who crippled me, because we went out on the lash, we had a few drinks, and he was talking about how I'm getting on with my FA badges and stuff like that. Told him how well I was doing, and he went, "Why are you doing it? You're never going to be respected at a professional club because you haven't been a professional yourself. So what are you doing it for?" And it was only when obviously the penny sank, and you're like, "Well, why am I doing it?" Because you're spending all this time and all this effort and all this energy, and in actual fact, you're only doing it for your own benefit. So yeah, it's an interesting way of doing it. But no, I don't think you can, mate. I think, like I say, if you're in the professional ranks and you've got your foot through the door and you had a serious injury, I think there was probably an avenue you could go down. But again, that's as much of a risk because of insurance towards the club, because that's the other thing that people forget. When you're under the umbrella of a professional club, you're actually insured by that club. So, you've got to run and work by the letter of their individual law. What they say goes, type of thing. So it is a bit of a different outlook. But I couldn't answer that question correctly, mate, now, because the game has changed so much. Like I said, I've been away from the game for 30 years, hands-on. And that's, like I said, that's the like I say, now, because I haven't really been involved with football, I'm rusty. I've probably forgot a lot more than I actually know now. And that sounds crazy, doesn't it? Just to say that, because I sit here and talk.
Didn't sound crazy at all.
I sit here and talk crap most of the nights. So like I say, it is a hard career. It's a very hard pathway, because what some see as a blossoming fruit, others see absolutely nothing in. And that probably goes for most of our first team players. Yano's asking a question, so let's see what Yano's saying here. So what was the Elanga injury that he miraculously recovered from sufficiently to go straight back into the team without the usual 10 bench appearances first? Well, that's I've already said, I think this is just Eddie Howe telling him to go home, spend some time with the baby that he's just had, and recharge the batteries, recharge the mental approach to the game. Just didn't see much of it when he come on yesterday. I mean, is there anything? Yeah, awful. Is there anything from you that thinks differently?
The pass that he took on the wing.
Do you think Eddie used the word injury as a broad stroke, and it maybe is that it's sort of the mental health of the players that he's taking them out the team for? So there might not be a sort of a physical injury, but mental injury sort of to him.
When I think about it, I don't think he ever used the word injury with Elanga. It was all to do with fitness, I think.
Yeah, Toon Assassins there saying, I heard he had split ends. I love that. That's for the hairdressers out there, that is, by the way. I mean, like I say, I just find it really fascinating when you actually look at your stepping stone for your first team and the type of help that can be. I mean, when you, for me, like I said, it's going to be the younger age group. It's going to be the under 18s that we see flourish. But again, the way the 21s have been that disjointed, what's saying that's not just like a wildfire? We don't know what's going on at that level type of situation. Very rarely talked about, but there is absolutely some very good gems in there. Whether they become first teamers is a different level. But for me, the likes of, there's players. I like Sam Alabi. I think Sam Alabi is one of them players, especially if we get him mentally approached. I like the look at Miodrag Pivas. I think he had got something about him. Again, a player who could, back in the day, from his homeland, and again, you talk about where he come from, playing that centre-back, right back, defensive midfield, got a lovely touch of the ball, see nothing of it. I think the kid just looks completely devoid of all confidence. Doesn't look like a footballer. Neither does Alanga. We didn't pay off as much. But I mean, it's it is crazy. Thanks for your comments, Toon, for that one, mate. Thanks for saying I'm still good, because I don't feel it. I must admit, I do sometimes sit here and I go, change. You're absolutely right, buddy, Toon Assassin. Gary, right, his game has changed so much back in the day. All coaches would need a refresher course. I'd need to start from bloody scratch, not a refresher course. You're good. Thank you, mate. Very, very nice of you. Mighty Magpie, 175 million triple substitute flex looked pretty pitiful compared to City's, which cost less, I believe. You're so right. And, we talk about changing the game. How did Man City's game look compared to when they took off Doku and brought in the player that we could have had for £35 million? They just run riot, didn't they? Did you not see it? The change in their approach to the game.
No, I mean, but to be fair to Eddie Howe and the team on that, I mean, they've got players. They've got brilliant players. We were running on fumes after 80 minutes. I think you've got to take the Man City game out of the equation in regards to. I do have to say though, Craig Hope got it right. Did you watch Craig Hope's podcast today?
No,
sorry, his little video the day. He got it wrong. He said that we were on a 4-game winning streak before the Man City game, which is technically wrong.
4-game winning streak?
Yeah, which was wrong. We're on a losing streak, but technically the FA Cup game was a draw.
He's talking about 90 minutes, isn't he?
Yeah, but no.
If you say to talk about 90 minutes,
if you read the definition, it's classed as a draw as a result.
Well, I got,
but the penalty shootout is used to get it to decide on the night.
So but I tell you what it did. I tell you what it did break though. He's our 13-game unbeaten at home. That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the noise about that, and again, this is why I said Pep was a lot more excited when that final whistle went than Eddie Howe. And I'm not talking about the results. I'm talking about coming to St James's Park, because it is a hard way to go. Toon Assassin saying that Yelps Heffernan would come good in the academy, but now he needs to leave. Yeah, again, no way forward, and kids are moving now. They're seeing the lights. I mean, we talk about, we mentioned it, didn't we? The lad who come from Man City, Alfie Harrison, now going to Birmingham City on loan, with the potential to be there all the time. And again, we paid $3 million for him, and I think the price that we're going to be charged is $500,000.
Lads, just quickly on that. This is going off topic completely. I'm sorry, but
but we need to stretch the equation.
Do you not think by this point we should have recalled Target by now?
Well, that was coming in the next section anyway. But
sorry, mate.
No. I think we've got to look at this, for me, very open-minded. I suppose we can't just label him as what he's going to do. And I've said that many a time. Does he change anything for the team? Well, he's a number. That to me, at this moment in time, is a lot more than we've got at the minute. according to the reports that I've been reading today, and I don't know whether Connor sent me something earlier, and if you have, mate, thanks a lot, because he sends me loads of stuff. There was a report that come in today that it sounds very much as though Newcastle have agreed an extension on Target, so it's not till Friday. I think they've got a little bit. It's not going to be much, and there's no terminology it comes to. You've got till Sunday in the report. It was just they've agreed an extension to when they have to submit his return. So again, I think it would be stupid of Newcastle just to throw the towel in and recall him, because what damage are you causing to him mentally? He's playing every game, so there has to be some conversations being spoken about, and hopefully after those, the conversations between Eddie Howe and the player or his agent or whoever he's talking to. He's just sent it me through now. NUFC in talks to recall Matt Target. Decision very soon. This is the Shields Gazette. Havel talks this week over recalling him from his loan spell. Make a decision soon. Newcastle inserted a recall option in Target's loan at Middlesbrough that can be redone. But like I said, I mentioned that wasn't the one I read. There was one earlier on that said there is an extension apparently to that date. So again, I don't know when that is. But let's ask you two then, because for me, under our current situation, win Dan Burn, Matt Target instead of Hall.
Which one?
Yeah.
Would I have? If they were both fit.
Yeah.
Dan Burn, million mile.
Bokeh.
I would have Target because I would have Dan Burn playing as a centre back at the minute. I don't think Botman.
There you go. I don't think Botman. Yeah, exactly.
So I think I would have.
No, you said left back though.
Well,
I'm saying I wouldn't put Burn at left back because I would want him as centre back, and I'd want Target. In which case, I've got to put Target as the left back.
Yeah, Quinny said he wished he had an extension. Join the club, buddy. And I'm going to put that to the chat. Target doesn't fill me with confidence.
You want an extension?
yeah. I'm going to ask the chat exactly the same. Both of them fit. Dan Burn. You've got Dan Burn and you've got Target. Who would you have playing left back? And don't forget, you have got to think about the minutes that Botman's playing at the minute. So again, let's think about rotation. As somebody else has put there, just out of curiosity, Gary, what do you get after the coaching badges? Is it a certificate? I've never thought about it. Well, back when I got one, I had a nice FA badge when I was doing the FA stuff. I got a certificate, but then I went and done the UEFA to get certificates with the UEFA. And there was me saying I was bullying myself up, thinking that I'd got a UEFA I. I haven't. I've only got part of it. I've actually got the UEFA B certificate. So, but like I say, it probably means absolutely. I think my kids have dribbled on it now. To be fair, it means that much. It's literally a coaster for my cup. But yeah, you used to get an FA badge. I don't know whether you still do, but you definitely get a certificate still. Like a Blue Peter badge then was back in the day. What else was there I saw? So yeah, I mean, Target's not.
That was the one for when we were talking about Alfie Harrison, Foxy was in. Harrison never really stood a chance because our fans hyped him up on rumour that he trained with their first team. He never even played in UEFA Youth Cup for City, so it shows how far down the pecking order he was with City.
So why did we pay $3 million for him? You know, that's the thing. It's got to be asked, isn't it? Why are you paying premium price if these lads are, on the Ramsey for the first team?
To be fair, Mitchell wasn't there, but I think Win will probably still blame it on him. So,
I'll obviously blame Paul Mitchell.
It was not there. I mean, there's been some crazy other $3 million for a player to do nothing. Says Target's not good enough. That is why he sent him on loan. Championship play, in my view. That's NT low. Yeah, that was my view. But again, I'm just talking. I've got to put that up in a minute, but we have to be careful. We are past the watershed. Toon Assassin has put down, back in the day, you got a badge, cert, and a massage from a page 3 girl. But that was back in the day. That was obviously after I finished, because I never got that. And if I did, I was too drunk to remember it. I think Botman has been not very good, says Liquid Metal Man. But again, are we putting too much pressure, too much minutes in players just returning from long-term injury? And that is the big thing for me. And that's why I said I would probably have Target back if they are dawdling on hitting the market. Because, again, we've only got one left back.
Can I just give an example here? If we got Target back, would either of you disagree against playing him for Wolves? Because I wouldn't. I would say that would be the right decision.
No, as he's probably been playing more minutes than some of our players coming straight back from injury, mate. But hasn't he? If you think about it.
But what I would argue is Botman needs minutes.
I'm not saying drop Botman. I'm not saying Botman.
He's apparently fit now.
No, I'm not saying drop Botman. I'm not saying drop Botman for Target. What I'm saying is Lewis Hall arrest and put Target in.
Was I? Oh, mate, I tell you, you cripple me, you do. I've got a cycling proficiency certificate from 1970.
Yeah, I've got one of them.
Pride of play. Yeah, I love it. Oh, I love it. I mean, listen, I agree. Botman needs time. He needs minutes in. He needs that match sharpness. People are saying, why don't you give Alex Murphy a shout? I mean, he should have had the chance. He should have shown whether he has that ability. Boki's already mentioned it. There has been opportunities this season to give him 20 minutes, The lad come on. And yes, he was very defensive-minded when he played. Who did he play for when we played? He come on for the last 10 minutes, didn't he? Who was that against?
Was it Bradford?
No, it's been recently. I can't remember who we come on for, but it's only like 10, 15 minutes.
But he did. The game it was. Who was it?
If I know that, I would tell you the bloody answer. That's what I'm saying. He was that good. I can't remember what he did. But yes, you're right. They have got the option of Alex Murphy. But if he's not going to go Fulham, there you go, Lee Maggs. Thanks, buddy. When you're not going to go there, I mean, don't forget the Fulham game was a tight game as well. It wasn't a gimme. And that's what I said. When you're 4-1 against Everton, they should have whacked a lot of them kids on, the Sean Neves that were on the bench. I don't know whether Alabi was on the bench against Everton, but whatever kids they had on, they should have threw them on and actually got them to play. Because that's when you start to see whether they've got it in them to meet them. Again, it's the 10-minute markers. We're not looking at, half a season here. We're just looking them to come on to give a lad who's hitting the wall a 10 minutes. Come on, get in your shower. We don't need you on the field of play. That's all you're asking for. Or somebody's picked up a yellow card. They're running through that time where that mental wall is. A late challenge is coming any minute now. Tactical substitution. Get them on the field of play. Sometimes those little times where you're desperate for a player, they work out. Every team we have played this season, there seems to be an academy player against us. Have you not noticed that? A 16-year-old, a 17-year-old. And we've got them, never see it. I've got a bronze survival badge. See, we've got all the badges coming out now. I haven't seen many Blue Peters badges out there, though. You got a Blue Peter badge, Win?
No, I haven't got a Blue Peter badge. I've got a couple of armfuls of scouting badges.
Well, I'm sure you were there, weren't you? And the scouts.
I've got a medal for someone who fixed it for us, but I don't think we can mention his name now. So.
Oh, Gary Livingston, you have.
I see. Jim fixed it for my book.
I wasn't even going to reply to that.
I didn't mention the name.
Oh, dear. Ralph Harris done his living room. Yeah, I know, mate.
What did he fix for you, for goodness sake? This is all new. This is going to be good, guys.
This is going to be clipped, this, isn't it?
He got us the new Sunderland top.
Oh, love it. Yeah, absolutely crazy. There you go. Here's one for you. Do you think the class of 92 would have happened at Man United if Howe had been the manager?
Probably would.
Go on, Win.
It would have been the class of 2002, probably.
You know, they were patently good enough.
Oh, there you go.
That's the difference.
Would any of you consider doing a preview with me before the Newcastle Aston Villa on Thursday, the 22nd of January at 4 p.m?
No probs. Get in touch.
Yeah, get in touch. We'll sort something out.
TMW at NUFC Talk TV. Email me.
Yeah, there you go. And as you can tell by the yam, I ain't far from you, lads. So I probably understand you, and I can swerve ball it to him if he don't understand you or you don't understand him. I'll sit right in the middle of the two of you. It'd be like that, wouldn't it? Like you were saying, I'll just point, Bulky. I'll just point. Yeah. Oh, I love it. He's that guy. We need to get contract extensions. No, that was the thing that I was going to come to. Massive news. Well, it's not that massive. It looks very much as though there's a hell of a lot of interest all of a sudden has appeared overnight, I say, to Bruno. He's certainly been one of the players for me that has moved Newcastle forward in the right direction. Not always at his best. He'll admit that himself. But when he does get a game, he does certainly try and provide Newcastle with something. And I was having a look at how real some of these are. And again, there is nothing I can honestly say. And it's very much like the Tino Livramento. You know, Tino Man City. Yeah, we still know there's interest there from Pep with Bruno. Now there's Bayern apparently have come and had a not asked any questions, but there's an interest. Man City, excuse me, is still there. The interest hasn't gone away. Now this is the one that got me. This is reports. There's a report from Spain, Real Madrid, and I'm like, no, this is good. This is BS. So I've clicked on it and I've had a read through it, and again, it's nothing, because what they're saying is if Jurgen Klopp takes over as manager, and I have to obviously categorise this, if Jurgen Klopp apparently for some time now has been a massive admirer of Bruno Guimaraes, and he was going to be one of his first signings if he becomes manager. That's the rumour. That's what the report's out. Like I said, I don't know whether Bruno suits Real Madrid, but obviously Jurgen Klopp admires him. So there you go. They're inquiring and inquiring. They first got to get Jurgen on board, but if Jurgen comes on board, there has been a report out in Spain that they will be inquiring about Bruno. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, you couldn't blame them, because for me, Bruno is probably the best midfielder I've ever seen at the Toon.
Yeah,
I think as well the intensity of the Premier League and speed of play. If he goes to a European league, a lot of those don't have the same intensity or speed. I think Bruno would be amazing because I think the top team. I think Bruno's major flaw is that he's not pacey at all. He can run obviously, but he's not super quick. So I think going to a European league would probably suit his style of play massively, and especially as he gets older.
They would be able to utilise him purely as a playmaker, which we haven't got the luxury of doing.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. I mean, there's some really interesting.
We've got one here from Gary saying 60 million for Tino in the summer. Yes or no?
No.
Not for me. No, really.
Well, I'm saying no. You know, you've got to ask the question.
Just his injuries. Yeah, me think about it.
Yeah, you have got to say, are we now seeing warning signs? He's a young lad. He's got a hell of a long career ahead of him. Are we just going to be sitting on that fence waiting for career-ending issue coming his way, because knees are an awkward joint to repair over and over and over again, and again, I mean, I know this isn't a knee injury, it's a hamstring injury, but they're all connected. That's what I said. When you're stretching your leg, whatever movement you make from the joint, there's two joints work on a hamstring. You move your knee, it hurts. You move your bloody hip, it hurts. So again, is it something that he's battling with? Are all these injuries making impact and strains on other areas of his body? Another one that you have to consider. So maybe you could do a deal, player plus cash, so you're not losing out on numbers. May not be a right back, but you may. There's reports saying he wants to get rid of Rico Lewis. Would you take Rico Lewis over Tina with a bit of cash? Not sure I would, but I mean, as a bridge.
The only thing I would say to that, Gary, is we're already going to have a massive building job on our back four this summer. Sorry, on our back four this summer, because I mean, you've got to see it's Trips' last season forward. Yeah. I mean, he shouldn't be offered a new contract, in my personal view. Centre backs, will Shaw come back? We'll all have our fingers crossed, but it's not looking great at the minute for him to get a new contract.
Just like I just want to do on this one with Gary. You're absolutely bang on, mate. Alvaro went on there, the old Man U, I think it was West Ham defender, who'd been looking after their youth at Madrid. So it's an easy appointment, isn't it, until you find somebody else. So that's what I said. I think he's gone as a caretaker rather than full-time, even though at this present moment in time, they have made it sound like he is in the job. I think if Klopp comes, he moves sideways. Or, assistant
we
or
should
something.
be looking to build our defence for me, as long as Liverpool.
That's it. That's the point. That's the point I was making, that we're already going to have a massive building job in our defence. So we're going to need a right back, centre back, and a left back probably this summer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's part of the reason. But we know this now, so why don't we go out and buy somebody during this window? I know you're going to play a premium, and I know it's the time to buy and all that. But firstly, it's something that we're going to have to do anyway in the summer, and clubs are still going to help the prices up whenever we're going for anybody anyway. And the second thing is, it gives Eddie a bit of a chance in regards to actually having a squad player, another squad player, or another hopefully starter. A body, basically. And it's I know it's never a good idea to buy just for having a body, which is part of the reason why I was talking about bringing Target back. But I do think we're going to have to buy players anyway, so bring that process forward and buy now. Wilson's been in place a long time now. Surely enough, we'll have to be progressing with this, sort of where we're at with the club in regards to, the scouting players and having people ready to come.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I agree. Just on the Mangiza, Oscar Mangiza. So obviously he was offered to Villa, and he was offered Villa, but chose to go to Juventus and play under Spalletti. So, like I say, that's where that one's gone. Thought he was ours. There was lots of noise saying that it's virtually done. It's just literally ticking a couple of boxes and the deal's through. But no, Juventus have come. But he was looked at by a number of clubs anyway across Europe. But again, he was offered, see if he wanted him, and that went bye-bye. Couple of interesting bits of news. Again, we're talking today, over the last 3 to 5 hours, Joe Willock, Crystal Palace, has come back up, and Leeds. Apparently now there's a definite inquiry. Asked to leave, reportedly, Newcastle, Joe Willock, and again, he's trying to sanction a move to go to either Leeds or Crystal Palace. But again, Newcastle want the right money. What is the right money for Joe Willock? Paid 25 for him, I believe, if memory serves me right.
Yep.
15, 20.
Would you take 15 as less as? Because they were talking 20 mil, weren't they? That's the rumour I heard.
I would say around 20 million, but I mean,
he costs us nothing at the minute, does he?
20 with add-ons. Or 15 with add-ons.
I was going to say, I'd go 15 with add-ons. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've talked about Bruno. We haven't talked about Joe White, but he's part of the young'uns that have never really going to feature for Newcastle. Thought he had a lot of promise when he was talking, to be fair, Joe White. But he's away to Bradford. And I believe he's gone with the other one that come.
Yes, indeed.
He played in midfield for us, didn't he? Harrison Ashby. Yeah. I think he's also gone out there. We played Bournemouth the weekend, and it's like everything else. Bournemouth again. Alex Scott, 6 hours ago. Apparently, there's been scouts from ourselves, Man United, Man City, and Aston Villa eyeing up Alex Scott. And then you go to Chokwu and Nadi. And again, this is a report saying that West Ham are preparing an official offer to Zulti Wadagam for the defensive midfielder and Ndani. And apparently West Ham, they've got the toes in the door. But apparently Newcastle Chiefs, again, we talk about what's happening over in Africa. And there's been some cracking youngsters playing for some of the South African sides and across Africa. And we've all mentioned it. Why Newcastle don't go and put a coaching team in Africa to get these boys Newcastle bled? You know what I mean? Get the black and white shirt on. Go kick a ball around for 10, 15 minutes a day. Watch them progress. Go and watch the professionals playing in Africa. Bring them over. There's some quality players that these lads are getting. Obviously, everybody wanted to hear about Matthias Mane from Wolves playing this weekend. The 18-year-old English-Portuguese centre-forward. Again, Chelsea is the big name that's come forward for this lad. Manchester United, again, has seen the promise from that. Whether there's any news or anything mentioned from Cunha about Mane, it'll be interesting to see. But an interesting one regarding right-back, because I didn't expect this, but according to it, there's been some conversation between Newcastle and Arsenal about White. Apparently, this is Ben White's last season. I think he's out of contract in the summer. And again, there's a suggestion. And again, this is all it is. There is nothing in this apart from a suggestion that he may be interested coming our way if they seek him. And according to it, it's may seek to sign the new right back due to an 8-week injury to T. Now, the situation has led to suggestions that the club might target Ben White on Tuesday, as Sky Sports confirmed that White is receiving significant transfer interest, but did not explicitly name Newcastle. Everton are also known to be interested in White, who reportedly has multiple interests at the club and from England and in the continent. However, it has also been claimed that Arsenal do not intend to listen to any offers on the 28-year-old. Again, he's a bit older than I was anticipating, if I'm honest with you. A permanent transfer would likely be expensive because his contract, it's till 28. There you go. I thought it was the end of the year. I wouldn't pay any money for him then if he's 28. They're talking 58 million euros. What is the point of that? Doesn't make any sense to me. No, nor me.
And
Tariq,
he's on 180 grand a week at the minute.
Yeah.
He's definitely not
exactly.
Then, is he?
No, nothing. Tariq Muharamovic, that was easy for me to say. Again, a reported right back has been getting interest from Newcastle, Manchester United and Tottenham. He's 22, probably the age group I expect them to be. But again, it's just an inquiry, nothing reported elsewhere. This is over a day ago now, and we're talking about Daryl Bacola. Again, there's an 18-year-old midfielder, Bacola, interesting player at Marseille. And Ruben Neves, 28-year-old defensive midfielder that I think could potentially do a job for us if he was to come on the right agreement. Interesting still talking about Scalvini, but from what I read now, Scalvini will not be done in January. I think, again, that could be injury issues because I think he's only 6 games back after a long absence. And you read his AWOL card the other day, and it was lengthy, to say the least. Dayan Matali is another one. Again, Toulouse is another primary target at Newcastle. But a knee injury means he's out for the rest of the season. So where everybody was looking at the rest of the month, not the season. I'm wrong. Injury means he's out for the rest of this month. So the interest from Newcastle has slightened a little. But they are still out there. Obviously, there's still talks going on with Aaron Ramsdale about whether his season-long loan will continue in January. There was some talk that if Newcastle do look at approach getting another keeper in, Ramsdale will go back to Southampton. Still talking about Strand Larson, but again, it's gone quiet because Strand Larson has asked for the move because obviously he's not featuring in the first team anymore. He's coming on as a sub. Honest Ahaino is a 17-year-old kid from Atlanta, defender. Can play either centre-half or left-back. Again, versatile young player, 17-year-old defender. Atalanta. Yeah, it's just my Brummie accent. And Ryan, and that was the Vasco da Gama attacker, Ryan, according to the 19-year-old player that, again, that Newcastle have been having a look at. But again, same as Alan. I mean, that's gone quiet now. Everybody was up in arms about that, about us signing Alan from Palmeiras. But again, I think a lot of it's just hype. The other interesting news, I'm sure you guys will be absolutely over the moon to hear. The Raheem Sterling has now gone quiet due to Chelsea and Rosinia having an interest in him getting back in the team. So now, all of a sudden, under the new head coach, he doesn't want to leave.
That's it. Everybody starts with a clean slate, as they always say.
That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Ladies, thank you ever so much for joining us. Thank you to Christina, who's left us, the mighty Win and Bauke. And thank you all for listening to me drone on for the last 2.5 hours. I do apologise. Chris, like I say, he's getting prepared for his journey across to the northeast to take mighty Win out for a pint. He hopes. And we'll see.
And I will end up paying for that, no.
Exactly. But I do want to thank you all. We've had a couple of chats in the building, so we'll get on to them now.
Yeah, we have got, thank you, Animal Lecter. Fancy a change, and fancy a change again. Yes.
Oh, thank you ever so much.
Cheers.
Yeah, I do fancy a change, so I'm going to be on the Aston Villa podcast on Thursday.
There you go.
There you go. Well, I don't know. I haven't even looked at me done yet. I might not. But again, thanks for getting in touch.
You'll be well at home with that accent.
I will. The yams with the Brummies. It'll be hilarious. Maybe then you'll understand what I say. I'm not a Brummie. Maybe you'll understand.
I don't know what you mean.
I don't know what you mean either.
Yao mean.
What Yao mean? That's it. Yao mean.
Eddie Howe now, Gary.
What's that, buddy?
At least you don't get called Barry now.
Well, it is that. I think he's taking the tablets.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I think we've covered everything. Evening, Kenny. It says Bokeh. There you go. I don't know why that's come up. Maybe my mouse button is playing fully things on me. Thanks, fellas. Great show, says Liquid Metal Man. Thank you ever so much for everybody throwing their love towards us. If you can, before we say goodbye, remember, Ball 99 gets you quite a lot on this show. If you so do want to become a member, $4.99, you get all the bells and whistles, everything we've done. You can go back and have a watch. Some of the funny stuff. You get Once Upon a Toon as well, which we've done before, and that could be coming back. I need to talk to you about some of the past games with Aston Villa. Now, that Aston Villa fan, that might interest you as well. Good friend of mine, Chris, his father was Tony Barton, the one and only. He won the European Cup with Aston Villa. Got some great stories to tell you from back in the day. Gary Sharp, not Gary Sharp.
Probably not suitable for transmission.
Probably not. But again, I'll ask him, see if he's willing to come on air. He's a bit of a shy lad, Chris. But if he's got time to come on air, he can. Obviously, some of the stories he tells me about, and his dad was an absolute hero.
They will likely be members only shows.
Yeah, Chris. I mean, his dad was. Tony was a bit, as they all were back in them day. You know, they were like Cloughie and the likes back in the days. But like I say, he certainly. That's when you did win a European Cup when they won it in the early 80s. So maybe he'll come on and do a show with you about the talk of the Toon. And like I say, you will get your emojis and stuff like that if you join and your members. So again, thanks to all that's watching. Thanks everybody for your love. Thank you to my lovely panelists and Tina that's left us. As always, you've been fantastic. And like I say, until tomorrow, where we'll go over the Wolves game and hopefully I might be able to get. I'm going to make a couple of inquiries to see if I can get somebody on the show from a Gold and Black, the old Gold and Black, to see if we can get something going. I don't know what happened to that lad who we had before, because he was a nice lad, actually.
Davey. I emailed
was it
him
Dave? Dave?
I emailed him earlier on this season and he didn't reply.
That's because they lost.
I tell you one thing we've got through a full show without doing as well as there being any swearing with the American mag not being on here, so...
well, there you go. I think you know what we need? We need one of those...
Note.
Yeah, what we need is a little swear jar, just in the background. See if we can get it full. Anyway, until the next one, thank you so much, Lynn. Thanks for your support.
Mags, ciao for
now.
Ciao for now, guys.
Away the lads.
Lassies and Boki, you can do the other one.
The Bairns.
Indeed. See you on the next one. Take care.
Bye, folks.